Tappei has just released Arc 7 Chapter 92, and this video will be a summary of the chapter. I highly recommend you check out my Arc 7 Chapter 91 summary. Anyways, let's begin. The air screamed and the world grew a little slower. The heat of the upheaval of the Empire consumed all. The heat that was forced into a box was unleashed as the people of Wallachia rose up against the Emperor, Vincent Wallachia. Different people have different ways of life, so it's impossible to reason with them if you don't know who they are. Some metallic people, bladesmen, I'm assuming these people are similar to Meguro, who's one of the 9 divine generals, were startled at the snowfall that was occurring. They tried to focus on the battle and attack, however they could not due to being numb and cold. Their bodies were not used to the cold. Wallachia was a hot climate. The sun was blazing, yet the freezing winds tore through the surroundings. The metallic individuals look and sees Madeline nearby, and near Madeline is a silver-haired girl who introduces herself as Emily. Like last time, Madeline is made angry and attacks. However, a piece of ice the size of a castle is dropped upon Madeline. The scene changes. As the ice block crashes, Emilia surveys the area. She's trying to minimize deaths. Abel explained to Emilia that despite them all being rebels, some groups have their own agenda. Some seek glory, for example. Everyone in the Emilia camp had their own duties. Emilia hated that the only thing she could do was fight. However, fighting came down to her and Garfiel. Petra and Otto had their own roles to fulfill. The Imperial Wallachia city was located in a star-shaped wall. It was hard to conquer this city because of the shape of the wall surrounding it. However, the best way to do that was to gain control of the 5 peaks. We see that Abel planned to let the rebels fight. That will allow rebels to potentially chip away at the general's strength. So even if they died, they would have an advantage. However, Emilia didn't like that because it was essentially sacrificing people. Otto told Emilia that he had a plan. Eventually, Emilia and Garfiel went their separate ways. Emilia had her own goal. Her goal was to defeat Madeline atop one of the 5 peaks. Emilia taps into her gate and releases mana. She heard from Petra that the climate is warm in Wallachia, so people do not like the cold. She heard from Otto that flying dragons do not like the cold. She heard from Garfiel and Frederica that when it gets cold, they like to curl up. Emilia thinks back to when they celebrated the snow in Arlem village. Emilia couldn't feel the cold. However, the snow festival in Arlem village was a good memory for Emilia. By the way, this is referring to the Memory Snow OVA, so highly recommend you watch that. There's an anime version of that. As the ice block falls onto Madeline, Madeline jumps up and slashes it into pieces. Madeline jumps down and moves towards Emilia, and Emilia shoots blocks of ice at her. This seems to be ineffective as Madeline blocks. Since Emilia is prioritizing speed instead of strength, the blocks are smaller. However, if they hit you in the head, it would hurt. Hundreds of blocks of ice are raining down on the capital walls. Madeline destroys the blocks of ice with her weapon. She doesn't throw it, she just wields it. The whole purpose for Emilia is to buy time, and Emilia tells the rebels, the metallic people, to run away. However, because they're made of metal, they move very slowly due to the cold. Madeline throws her weapon and Emilia dodges it, but circles back and goes for one of the bladesmen. Emilia intervenes and kicks the boomerang of death away, causing her entire body to creak in pain. As Emilia recovers from the recoil, Madeline moves up, catches the spinning blade that Emilia kicked away, and slashes at Emilia, but Emilia creates ice swords to block the attack. The first ice sword makes contact with Madeline's weapon and shatters. Emilia then creates a third ice sword and blocks with the second, and eventually she manages to parry Madeline's attack, and Madeline's attack hits the floor, creating a shock wave which knocks Emilia away. Emilia then gets up from the shockwave, and Madeline asks where the red woman is. Emilia asks if she means Priscilla, but Madeline says that she doesn't remember the names of humans. Emilia says that she's busy and has someone to see. We see that Priscilla and Al are on the battlefield, and whilst everyone has their own goals, so for example, Emilia's goal is to get Subaru and Ram, Emilia is unaware of what Priscilla's goal is. Not only that, Priscilla didn't even tell Emilia what she talked about with Yorna. Madeline is angry that Priscilla isn't present, as steam emits from her body. Madeline says that she'll crush them one by one, as they mocked the dragon. She moves forward and slashes at Emilia. However, Emilia says that she isn't alone, as an ice Subaru lunges at Madeline, blocking her attack, and then that leaves her open, allowing Emilia to hit her with her twin sword ice attack. The scene changes. At the top of each peak, it was funny seeing that many were eliminated by the few. This was the epitome of the Volacian Empire, where the strong were held in high esteem. No matter how the weak rebelled, they would be struck down by the strong. We see that Yorna is overlooking the situation. She has a role to fulfill. Her people that she loved lost the city of Gearsflame. Yorna mutters that she would rather have the peace of a true emperor than a future granted by a false one. Yorna puffs her pipe, and the earth around her moves. This is the soul marriage technique. However, the soil of the imperial capital moves slowly. Maybe Yorna's feelings have something to do with it. Yorna says that she isn't in perfect condition, but she will be her opponent. Yorna looks above and sees that Arakia is jumping across the sky, releasing fireballs at rebels. Arakia is far away, but Yorna can tell that it's her. Yorna wonders who put Arakia up to this. However, Yorna is interrupted by Priscilla. Yorna calls her Prisca, but Priscilla says that her name is Priscilla Barriel. Yorna was partnered with Arakia since she was the only one who could potentially beat her. Arakia, who of course noticed Priscilla and Yorna, was upset at Priscilla's appearance. That was proof of their special relationship. Priscilla then asks if Arakia made up her mind. Arakia then states that she will kill the emperor, thereby making Prisca the true emperor. By the way, Arakia still calls her princess. She doesn't use Prisca's real name. Hearing this, Priscilla pulls out the Yang sword Volacia, a beautiful sword which Yorna stares at. Priscilla tells her mother to stop gawking, and Yorna says to not speak to her like that because she's her mother. Priscilla then tells Yorna that Arakia and her grew up as sisters after Yorna died. Of course, Yorna is Sandra Benedict, so do keep that in mind. Arakia seems to want to make Prisca the emperor. With that, Arakia charges forward, turning the world to red. The scene changes. From a distance, Todd Fang could tell that the air in the battlefield was changing. Todd was sure that the first attack worked. The initial attack was to break the momentum of the rebels. Therefore, this peak with him and Arakia would be the safest. In fact, that was true. After Todd and Arakia wiped out the one-eyed tribe, so essentially they were Cyclops, there was barely any attacks. However, again, Todd could tell that Arakia's flames were burning intensely. So Todd wonders if this was part of the plan, and that the second group had someone competent in it. Todd wonders if this second group attacking was the real deal, instead of the first group of fools. Todd analyzes the situation. If they are fighting Arakia, it makes no sense that they are attacking if they think they will lose. Of course, Todd doesn't think that Arakia will 100% lose per se, but he's being cautious. Todd feels as if the enemy's brains can somehow see far with their eyes and ears. It makes Todd feel weird. Leave the tough enemies to Arakia, however the real enemy is someone else. With that, Todd mutters that they have to deal with the bad guy, and the chapter ends. So I'll make this quick. because I have to go, but essentially it seems like Todd's on the money. Like, he feels like something's off, and it's kind of funny. He mentions how, like, he feels like the enemies have, like, eyes and ears everywhere, which is true because of Otto's blessing, allows him to sort of communicate with animals. But it seems like Todd is focused on another enemy, which seems to be Subaru, and obviously we're going to get our Subaru versus Todd fight soon. So yeah, I mean, it was a good chapter. I don't think Madeline has lost. I feel like she's still in the fight. And, I mean, most of this is what we predicted anyway. You know, Arakia versus Priscilla, Todd versus Subaru, and so on and so forth.